Lake Bluff School District 65 Board of Education regular meeting for February 26, 2019. Julie, could you take the roll?
I can. Susan Ryder.
Present.
Philip Hood, absent. Mark Berry.
Present.
Leanne Charlo.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, present. Richard Hegg, absent. John Morozen.
Present. So we have a quorum, and we're going to begin, and we are going to start our evening with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I believe Maddie is going to lead us in that. So we can all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good job.
I think that probably makes sense. I think we're going to do a quick little flip on the agenda and have our STEAM, LBES STEAM presentation go first, since you guys are
Makerspace.
standing and ready. So thank you.
So we're really excited today to share with you a little bit of an update about our makerspace at LBES. We brought along with us some current fifth graders who, as fourth graders last year, started a task force that presented to Alliance to obtain a grant for us to get our makerspace off the ground. So we're going to share with you the presentation that they put together last spring, and then we're going to follow up with some updates about where we are now.
Lake Bluff Elementary. Diana Randina says, a makerspace is a place where students create, invent, tinker, explore, and discover using a variety of tools and materials. We need a makerspace at LBES because it will improve learning, increase creativity, and provide opportunities for collaboration and new friendships. In April, all fourth graders participated in a cardboard challenge, which was inspired by the YouTube sensation Kane's Arcade. We are put with partners from the classes around us and had to plan what we were going to build from cardboard, duct tape, yarn, and scissors. Some of the creations were whack-a-mole, a car, a camper, a restaurant, a guitar, and even a foosball table. We had so much fun interacting with other people in our imaginations that we wanted to help create a makerspace for our school, so we'd have more opportunities for these types of actions.
We gathered a group of fourth graders to create a task force. We split into different groups, including an interview committee, research committee, production committee, and presentation committee. We volunteered during our lunch and recess to do this work because we feel confident and committed to the importance of a makerspace. Each of the committees worked together, and here's what we discovered.
We need a makerspace.
Now our fifth graders are going to give you a little bit of an update about where we are now.
After we presented to Alliance last year, we were awarded a grant to help us start a makerspace at LBES, starting in the fall. Fifth graders were able to explore makerspace during their weekly library time.
After we learned about all the materials available to us in the makerspace, we were able to start coming to makerspace during our lunch and recess. Today we brought some items to share with you that we think represent what makerspace is all about. I decided to bring the makerspace sign that I crafted because it represents the idea that everyone is welcome in a makerspace and that you can create whatever you want, judgment-free.
This is an airbrush that I like to use because it's similar to painting but creates a different effect. We have stencils we use and can create our own as well. I like to use this because it helps to create really unique ideas.
At Makerspace, you can get into many new things. Before Makerspace, I didn't know what snap circuits were, but at Makerspace, I learned about them. Getting to use this has really enhanced my creativity. This is an example of one of the snap circuit creations I've developed.
Wow.
My friends and I worked together to make this painting. We used a lot of different materials, including paper cups, paper clips, puff balls, and many other items. We collaborated and used all of our ideas and ended up with a really cool creation.
These are examples of projects we created during Maker Monday.
Maker Monday is a specific day with an assigned project, but we still get to use our creativity to make it our own.
For example, one Maker Monday, we learned about stamping and card creation to make Valentines. We had the materials to make them, but we each got to create our own designs.
Another Maker Monday was creating windmills. Once we learned how to create a windmill, we were each able to design our own. We used recycled book pages to create windmills like this.
And happily, this was also used as snowflakes on our bulletin board for the library. And that is our presentation. The fourth graders now are experiencing Makerspace during their library time, and the fifth graders keep coming at lunch. So it's been a lot of fun. Are there any questions?
Can board members come? That looks like a lot of fun.
I would definitely like to add that we thank our dedicated staff. So Paige Souley and Jackie Tivador were working with the students this evening, but also included in that team are Buffy Stauffer and Laurie Brown. They've also been part of a committee this year where we've been doing research, mostly in other school districts, just to see what their elementary STEAM and makerspace programs look like so that we can start making decisions about how to move the program forward in our school building. So thank you.
You guys all did a fantastic
Good
job.
job.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you all very much for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Good job.
You're not going to stay for the rest of the meeting?
So I think now we have a presentation from our superintendents for the day.
Yes. Do you have our presentation ready? Hi, guys. How are you?
Good. How are you?
A few years ago, for our Pumpkin Fest, I decided to donate one of my days to have 2 assistant superintendents. And these young men, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves because they were superintendents, so they can do that now themselves, spent the day with me, and we took pictures, and I'm going to have them kind of narrate what we did. So step up to here. You have to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Evan Spizzano. And my name is Alejandra Leahy.
All right, so we started our day out talking to Mrs. St. Clair, their principal. So boys, do you remember what we talked about?
I think we talked about some of the social aspects of our school, not just the overall running of the school.
Mm-hmm. And did you talk about teacher evaluation?
Yes, all of the teacher evaluation and what they get evaluated on and how it's assessed.
Anything else you want to add?
And we just learned how the job was not basically just running the school. It had a lot of other aspects to it.
They have a lot to do, don't they, as
Yes,
principals?
a lot.
All right, so then we went right next door and talked to Ms. Rorick, who's our assistant principal. And what did we learn from her? Does she do the same thing as Mrs. St. Clair?
No, she does more social work than her.
Okay.
More of the social work, like dealing with students who might go to the office for certain reasons. Sometimes they will go to Mrs. Vork's office, or mostly Mrs. Vork's office.
Because she helps them then make better decisions the next time, right?
Yeah.
All right,
And
so
she does this, and she does the scheduling for the school year.
that's right, she does the scheduling for all the teachers in the school. So she does, even though she's the assistant principal, she really does some different jobs too, doesn't she?
Yep.
All right, then where did we go next? Oh, who's that?
That is Mr. Blackmore at the middle school.
All right, and what happened at the middle school?
We got a tour.
You got a tour.
Tour, yep.
So, and what did Mr. Blackmore share? What was the most exciting part of the tour?
I liked the overall reconstruction of the library and cafeteria.
Good answer.
You're excited, right?
Mostly, well, I have been there before in the years of Pumpkin Fest, and the years, I think the improvements were good.
And,
the library was really cool with the original entry of the original Lake Bluff School.
yeah, that's the frontispiece in the library.
Yep.
So would you say after visiting with Mr. Blackmore and getting your tour, you're excited about going to the middle school?
Yes.
Very much. Very
All right, and what grade are you guys in?
Fifth grade.
That's right, that's why I asked that, because that means you're
So
gonna be
next
there
year.
next year.
Yeah. Yep.
So who did we visit next? Mr. Khan
and Mr.
and Dr. Rubenstein.
Yeah, Dr. Rubenstein.
And who are they? All right, Mr. Khan sitting in the,
Yeah.
he's right here.
He's the one who Mr. Khan is the one who deals with the finances of the district.
Very good, okay.
And then Dr. Rubenstein, he
He does technology
works with all of the technology and the
and
testing.
testing, that's right. And so you got to visit the district office, and you
Yeah.
know, before we go on, because now we're gonna be leaving the district, why did I bring you to meet all these people? What does the superintendent do with all these people?
Well,
They have meetings with them to help run the district better.
They have meetings to help run the district and be part of the community, right?
yeah.
And both of you said when we got to the end of the day that you were pretty tired. You thought it was kind of a long day for a
Yeah.
superintendent, right? So, now who's this person? Because I think this person is up at the table here.
Yes, that is
Mr.
Mr.
Berry,
Berry,
the
the
school
president
board
of the school
president.
board.
And what does Mr. Berry do?
Good
He just
I'm curious.
Mr. Berry is the board president.
yes.
So he leads all the meetings for the board,
Leads the
right?
meetings.
And who does the board hire?
The board hires the superintendent.
The board hires the superintendent.
Yeah.
So you met with Mr. Berry to kind of talk about that whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so, and did he tell you that how much money he makes? Did he tell you that story?
Yes.
What is it?
$0.
$0.
He's overpaid.
And then who did we go see?
Then we went
To lunch.
go. Yeah.
And did you like Bluffington's?
Yeah.
And and I told you it was kind of unusual for me because I usually don't get a lunch break. So unless I'm at a meeting or going out with students, I don't get lunch. So we sat and visited about things that you do in your free time and your sports
Yeah.
and your activities. It was kind of fun, I think.
Yes.
All right, and then where did we go?
Then we went to the
Here.
here, yeah. We
And
went,
who are those two people there?
that is Mr. Irvin and Mrs.
O'Hara.
O'Hara.
And what do they do? Do you remember?
Mrs. O'Hara is the village president.
Very good.
And
And Mr. Irvin is the village administrator.
Yeah, the administrator.
And so what, do you remember, they talked to you about what all the books were behind us?
Yeah.
They talked about how the village works with the school district?
yes.
Yes.
Oh,
And
okay.
all of the other
Entities they work with,
entities,
like the
yeah,
park
with the
district and all
districts
that.
the
And the
stuff.
zoning and.
And see, I'm looking at this picture, you guys look pretty natural behind that thing, so that might be something you want to think about later. All right, then where did we go?
Then we went to the high school.
Yeah. And
And
to
who's
see
that? Dr. Holland.
Dr.
Yes.
Holland.
the high school principal.
Yeah.
And what did you do there?
We
Well,
got
we
a
took
tour.
a tour of the school.
And
Her job, what isn't like all the other principals. She.
Anything else you wanted?
She works with
High school students.
the high. Well, yeah, the high
Yeah,
school
a lot.
students. Yes, more with the high school students that than the principals at at LBMS and LBES.
Yeah, they don't work with many high school students at the elementary and middle, but they work with kids a lot. So one of the things we learned about Dr. Holland, the boys were impressed with, is Dr. Holland used to play basketball when she was at Northwestern as a
Yeah.
college student,
Yeah.
because she's really tall. And they were impressed that she knew a lot of the kids' names. And their favorite part of the day was what, at the end, what happened? She brought you to
To the store gift shop.
the gift shop, and she bought them each Lake Forest High School T-shirts.
Very cool.
So it was very, very cool.
Yeah.
So, and then on the way back to the elementary school, when I dropped you off, both of you said, "Oh, man, I am so tired." And I said, "Yeah, well, my day usually goes on about 4 to 8 hours beyond this, guys." So we had a great day, and I think the boys learned a lot about becoming a superintendent.
Yes.
And my hope is that in my lifetime, I get to see one of you become a school administrator. How would that be? Is there anything you want to share with the board?
You've shared a lot.
if you
Thanks
don't.
for the
Thanks for all
description.
your,
Yeah, that was
Thank
great.
you very
We
much. You
appreciate
guys
it.
did an outstanding job. Outstanding. Thank you very much. It's good to see both of you.
See you on number 1, huh?
Well, it's too late.
Saturday. Yeah, I'm gonna get to that one.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, it was because Margaret got them all up. The superintendents.
So our next piece of recognition comes from Royce Lee Wood at the Regional Office of Education, and there's a recognition for Attendance Week, I believe.
Welcome.
I'm even taller than the podium, huh? Sometimes I disappear behind podiums. Good evening. It's really an honor to be here to make this presentation. Your school, 65, participated in the annual Attendance Week thing that we do with the Regional Office of Education. I brought with me this evening Monica Schwander, who is in charge of that particular program, and she has a few things to tell you. But I'd just like to say to you, we're very proud. I'm a proud resident of Lake Bluff. 50 years I've lived here now. And I indeed have enjoyed every one of them. And am always encouraged by what I see in our schools and the leadership that we have here. Dr. Sophie has done an outstanding job, and I'm certain the principals have as well. So the young men had a lot to say about you there. Anyway, so I'm going to let Monica say a few words about attendance, and then we'll give you the certificates. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So every year in September, we have 1 week that we dedicate to Attendance Awareness Week, and also this year was our 6th annual Attendance Awareness Month. And what we do is we encourage all the schools in the county to participate in our attendance awareness competition. And then the last week of September, the last day of September, we hold an attendance awareness ceremony. So all the schools that have participated, we take the top 10 of each of the 4 categories, and then we recognize the schools that won, and a lot of the kids come as well. And so unfortunately, Lake Bluff couldn't come. I don't know if there was a conflict with in-service day or something. It could have been that.
Yeah.
So we're here, we brought the awards. So we have 4 categories that based on enrollment. So the 4 categories are high school, pre-K through 8th grade, with students less than 450 enrolled, and then pre-K 8th grade schools with between 451 and 649 students, and then another pre-K 8 schools with more than 650 students. So we have to divide up the categories that way. Lake Bluff has participated in our Attendance Week competition since 2013, and the middle school has placed in the top 10 2 times, and this year their attendance rate was 98.43, and which gave them 5th place. So Lake Bluff Middle School had 5th place this year. So I don't know.
Nate, you want to go up and get that from her?
Thank you, sure. And then Lake Bluff Elementary School has participated again since 2013, and in the past 10 years it's been, or a few years, it's been 3 times that they've had a good attendance rate as well. And this year it was 97.89%, which gave them 8th place.
Great.
So when we have attendance week, we encourage different schools to do different activities, just to, again, encourage kids to come to school on a regular basis. And the percentages are great, 98, and was it 97%? And those percentages at the end, from 10th place to first place, are very, very close. The highest was, I think, 98.7%. So not too far off between any of the rates. So we just encourage kids to come to school.
We really thank you for coming out tonight. You know, we've worked long and hard on our attendance because, not only because of the state mandate, but we know that our kids do better when they're in school.
Right.
And so we appreciate the recognition, and we look forward to placing next year again. So thanks for coming out tonight on this snowy night.
Thank you for inviting us.
So now we are going to go into our reports, which we do not have many reports.
I have one short one.
I think, you want to lead off? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just reporting for Dr. Rubenstein tonight, who is homesick. He was going to report that we will not be hosting summer school this summer. We've spent a lot of time really looking into it. Our staff is at the age now where most of them want to be home with their kids in the summer, so our volunteers for teachers really dwindled. It's become somewhat of an expensive endeavor in the summer for us. What I heard from PTO moms is the barnyard, the class that really gets the kids ready for kindergarten, was very important to them. So instead of offering it for the parents that wanted to take it over the summer, we're going to offer the program for all kids at the beginning of the school year next year to make sure that we're covered for that class. For kids that have extended school year in their individual plans, we will be working on a partnership with Deerfield, and the kids will be going there for the summer. So that was going to be Kevin's report tonight.
Thank you. Any questions? For my president's report, just very briefly, later on tonight, we're going to be voting on a contract for a search firm to lead our new superintendent search. And just as background, in case people have not heard this, Dr. Sophie is retiring in June of 2020, and we are beginning the process of looking for her replacement, which is a huge project. And we are going to vote tonight on a search firm to lead that process. We're going to be recommending a firm called School Exec Connect, and they come highly recommended. The very first thing we will do after we vote at our meeting in May with this firm will be to set up hold a planning meeting where we will establish a calendar for all the things we will do through December of this year, which was when we anticipate announcing a hire for a superintendent in December of this current calendar year. It will really kick off in the spring when we return back to school, when we will hold focus groups in the community with all different groups of stakeholders and staff at the schools and administrators and board members to work with School Exec Connect to help develop a profile of the superintendent we are looking for. So between these meetings, as well as a district-wide survey, which will be distributed and available to anybody in the community to take, we will develop a profile for that highlights the characteristics we're looking for in a new superintendent. We'll begin our interviewing process probably in October and November, and then make an announcement for a hire in December of 2019. So it's going to be moving along, and it'll start moving quickly once we get that calendar established in May. So we're just going to be voting on that later, so I wanted to do a little background. And Dr. Sophie wanted to make a disclaimer.
Yeah, in the spirit of full transparency, which is very important for all of us here, I was actually a member of School Exec Connect from May of 15 to about January of 2016. I never did a search nor received any money. And then in the renegotiation of my contract, the clause of consulting went out. So I resigned in January of 2016. But I don't want anybody to think there's a conflict of interest with that, so.
So there's no connection with them whatsoever.
No.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, so we're now going to get into our more formal discussions and begin with item 8A, the elementary school foundations team.
Hello. So I'd like to start by introducing myself. I'm Tracy Rourke, Assistant Principal at the elementary school. And it's my pleasure to introduce our foundations team that's here with me tonight. This is Paige Soule, our school librarian, our library media specialist, Erin Peckler, kindergarten teacher, Margaret St. Clair, principal, and Kim Novak, learning behavior specialist. So just a little background about our group. Our foundations team is a subcommittee of our broader committee of PEP. PEP stands for Partners Ensuring Pause, and PAWS are our school-wide guidelines for success. Oh, thank you. So Foundations is a title from Safe and Civil Schools, which leads a multi-year training as a cohort that our team attends. This cohort training lasted for 4 years, and our team attended all the trainings for the 4 years. When we attend our foundations trainings, we learn about many aspects of school and working with students and their behaviors. This includes building team processes, building our school culture and climate, looking at safety, discipline, behavior support plans, and school connectedness. Our current foundations team, after they attend those cohort trainings, returns to our full committee, our PEP committee, and shares all of the information that they've learned, and then our PEP committee works to build up our school-wide processes and procedures.
And I was appointed materials manager as a librarian. I don't know why. But one of the things that we are kind of in charge of is having all of our materials and items categorized. And so Tracy actually put a Google Drive in place for us, and it is shared with all teachers, and everything is in that drive. All of our agendas, every policy that we have, everything that we have worked on. So you could see the multi-tiered systems of support on the right-hand side there to kind of show an example of some of the items that are in our drive, and it is access to everyone, and we use it constantly. It's a great resource.
So Paige, I have a quick question. So if I'm coming in as a new
Oh, yes,
teacher,
thank you.
I would get on this drive, and if I wanted to know, for instance, what the recess expectations for kids, so I could work on that with the kids in my classroom, I would get on this drive.
Absolutely. So every policy that we have adopted, from even our hallway videos, everything is in this drive. So the mentor would work with the new teacher to go through to show that aspect too. And then every member of the PEP committee is also available to help support that. Every member of the PEP committee also presents to each grade level or different teams in our building so that they are always up to date on what is in there. Forms for tier 2, tier 3 behaviors that we have to fill out, or discussion forms if you want to have with students. We are always presenting to keep our teams up to date also on what's there, so yeah.
So, you know, when she talks about hallway videos, what that is, we actually teach kids how to walk down the hallway, how to behave in a hallway, what not to do in a hallway, and what to do in a hallway. And we have that for many, many different areas of the building, and that's all covered in the beautiful diagram on the right-hand side.
Yeah, so, and we actually presented this, which is why Dr. Sophie said we should come here, to our bigger foundations group with all the school districts, and so we were showing them everything that was in our drive. So they got to see, like, wow, there's so much work in there. If you see, I mean, our PEP binder is in there. You click it open and anything you need. A lot of teachers have been using the discussion form lately, where it's a one-on-one discussion with students, and you're just basically charting, like, hey, I noticed lately you've been talking back, and I've counted these many times. Let's work on a goal to try to, kind of nip that in the bud a little bit. So we work with teachers. I had a teacher the other day say, how do we do that discussion again with the students, what do we do? And they use the library a lot, which is nice.
If you look on the right, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 chart there, that's really one of our guiding documents because we look at behavior the same way that we look at maybe some academic supports. We have our tier 1 instruction that we do for everybody. All of our behavioral supports and expectations that are delivered to every student. Then we have our tier 2 interventions. That would be students who might need a second round of instruction, or they may need some small group targeted practice in following those expectations. And then tier 3, which means they need more intensive behavioral support, usually in a one-on-one type setting, targeted to specific skills. So it's the same way that we look at academics, we're looking at behavior.
So the second year, what we did was we tried to tackle a few things, and one was bridging the gap between bringing our kids to specials classes. So we came up with the idea to ask all of the specials teachers to let us know what their expectations were that they wanted our kids to know before coming into their classroom every day. So we made a card for each of the specials teachers that each of the classroom teachers has in their classroom, so that before we take our kids to specials, we remind them of the expectations that that teacher expects when they walk into the classroom, so that they're not only viewing their classroom teacher as their teacher, but also all the different specials teachers that they see throughout the day. The next thing that we really tackled was our hallway expectations. So we started with making our awesome video that we used students and teachers. The kids played a really big role in teaching each other in the video how to walk the correct way through the hallway, while the teachers modeled the poor behavior that we don't want to see in the hallway, which the kids really enjoyed. So as part of our hallway, we started off by having the Hallway Hall of Fame. So we had paw prints to hand out to classrooms, and other teachers would compliment other classrooms, and anytime that happened, the teacher would put a paw print up in the hallway that was displayed for the whole school to see, and whoever got 20 paw prints first, or whenever they got them, you got a cool red Fox role model wristband that you got to wear to show that you were showing paws in the hallway. And then we created some really good signage. Our good friend, Mr. Fox, there was a great image that we found. He shows up on a lot of visuals in our school. So we came up with our slogan for WALK, which is walk on the right, act respectfully, lower the volume, keep the flow, which you can find posted outside or in the window of all the classrooms, and then in the main areas of the hallway, especially our stairwells.
And then in year 2, we tackled playground expectations and came up with, we had the supervisory expectations for what we wanted them to do, and but we came up with zones for them to watch. We talked to them at the beginning of the year of how we wanted them to monitor the zones, and also the rules for all of the equipment, especially in the back playground, and have that posted for them. One of the things that we also did in year 2 was to have students take a survey, a safety survey, kind of a little climate survey. Pre-K through first took it on paper, where they had to circle smiley faces, frowny faces for the questions, and then second through 5th did it on the computer. And one of the things that came up was this one: if I feel unsafe, I have an adult at LBES I can talk to. And in the spring of 2017, we were shocked that there was 11 students who felt, and these were students 2nd through 5th, so they had already had some teachers that they felt they couldn't talk to some. So that kind of led into our year 3 work.
So in year 3, I know we've talked in here before about our Fox families and the groups that we put our students in. We thought that one way for students to get connected with other adults in the building was to create our Fox families, which has a small group of students, about 8 to 10 kids from kindergarten through 5th grade, and they stay in that same Fox family their whole time at LBES. Then their leader is another staff member in the building. So we have everyone, including our secretary has a Fox family, family, our nurse has a Fox family, so this gives students connections with each other in all different grade levels and also connections with other adults in the building. We were happy to see the survey results then increased in the number of kids who felt like they had an adult to speak with. Another thing that we did in year 3 was we have a really great tool that we got from the Foundation's training, which has over 100 behaviors that you might see in a school or in a classroom, categorized and alphabetized. So what we did is we gave the index out to each grade level team so that they could pick the top 3 behaviors that they really would like to strategize around. And then our PEP committee puts together kind of like a half sheet of a problem-solving sheet that we have posted in staff bathrooms and around for them to kind of do a little reading when the only moment they have to sit down all day. So there's a good example. If your student is blurting out, here's some things that you could do with those students. And so every month or 2, we change those out based upon what the teachers are saying they would like support with.
Another part of year 3 was providing the support for our classroom teachers and for all of our staff through the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 behaviors that may happen within any given day or any given time. So with Tier 1, the idea is that the behaviors are addressed within the classroom, and then it would be up to a teacher whether a parent would be notified. And then with Tier 2 behaviors, that it would be a repeated Tier 1 behavior that either that became defiant or was happening certainly 3 or more times in a short period, and at which point then the parent would always be notified at that point, and then followed by the Tier 3 behaviors, which would be more significant behaviors that the student would need to have an office referral, and parents would be contacted with an administrator involved as well. And then with each of these tiered behaviors, we provided at a staff meeting, and then continue, the form is in the document, as well as continually reviewed as to where each behavior would fall into, whether it would be a Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 behavior. So to continue to give that support.
So our work will continue on and on through our PEP committee, but some exciting news that we had found out at the end of last year was that NSSED was going to be starting a new cohort. And so we felt that it was very beneficial to send a new group of teachers through the cohort to make sure that as our PEP committee continues working, that we're remaining fresh in our ideas and our systems. And we're continually looking at our processes and procedures and making sure that we keep our work going. So from the work of the new cohort, we've created a bus safety survey. We identified through our original safety survey that the bus ride was an area where we really needed to grow and provide some teaching and some intervention. And so for just bus riders, we sent out another survey trying to identify maybe where we could provide some teaching and supports. And our PEP committee will continue working on that plan for the bus. Our Foundations Group 1 will be working on our problem-solving team, which is an area where if a teacher's struggling with a student's behavior in the classroom, they can fill out a referral form, and then a team comes together to help problem solve a plan for those particular behaviors. And then the last thing that we will be working on is designing some spirit wear for our Fox Family Days so that all of our students can come together with our teachers and all show their school spirit. So thank you so much for allowing us to come present tonight. We really enjoyed our time here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys did an outstanding job. Thank you. As they're getting situated, and feel free, you guys, we know you need to get home early because you still need to be back at school normal time tomorrow. I do want to mention there was a showcase at NSSED with all the different districts and their PEP committees, and the work that this team has done has been outstanding. So I encourage them to keep going and doing their work because it's really helped build a safe culture in the building.
So Jean's now going to take us through the staffing presentation that
Can
she
you
was going
just
to do with
flip
Kevin
one?
as well, but Jean will do it tonight for us.
Again, I apologize, Kevin was going to co-present with me. This is the same staffing presentation that we do on an annual basis, but also very different. So I'll go through the things that are same and then things that are different. A little bit of history for all you. When I started here, coming from the personnel background, we always had licensed staffing plans approved so that the board always knew that particular year how many FTEs we would be having. So beginning in 2003, staffing plans have been brought to the board for approval, usually in January or February. If we ever did have to cut staff, which we did do a RIF one year that I was here, we RIFed one teacher and were able to hire her back at the end of the year. Those teachers have to be released in March. So we always have to have the staffing plan done before the middle of March. As an admin team, we review the data for both schools over several months prior to January and February. In determining recommendations, we keep in mind the very informal guidelines for class sizes in our community. Keeping in mind that through the strategic planning process, that was another very, very vocal, this is what we expect in Lake Bluff is small class sizes. And the fact that our entire community values that in the school district. At the middle school, we made a big change the very first year I was here in adding and changing more math time. And that's been very successful and is reflected in our math scores. We have also added extra support staff to our FTE for licensed. We added a social worker at LBS a couple years ago due to the number of students that we have and increasing needs. We also added an English language teacher due to our increased second language students. We have shared over the years all the many constraints on the middle school schedule, and we've shared many years that the size of our middle school is so small in comparison with others that we really need a minimum number of staff. And we've added opportunities in math for students to take math at their own ability levels. So with all of that being said, here's the district enrollment trends. Relatively steady, very different than the demographic study that was presented actually the night that I was hired in February of 12. And I think a lot of that is because we're so small. It's hard to be statistically right on when you're dealing with such small numbers. Obviously, we had the impact of the economic crisis coming from 2012. We've kind of balanced out a little bit. Next slide. Strategic plan info from the very latest strategic plan, again, small class sizes, recognition of a wide range of abilities in our classrooms. We have kids come to kindergarten that have never been in preschool, and other kids that have had every opportunity in the world and are reading already. And many speak different languages, and we really have a wide range in our classrooms. On our current staffing, we have enrichment teachers, reading specialists, math specialists, and many others. Our special ed teams and services to keep students in our home district when possible. We have mandate impact. So, for instance, with our English language teachers, after so many students, you have to hire more staff. That's a mandate. We have very many programming needs. And our desire, obviously, is to offer a balanced curriculum with academics, social, emotional, and fine arts. Next. We always have to keep in mind our financials and our taxes discussion, and that is because if we ever had to make cuts, 90% of our dollars from taxes, or 90% of the money we get in the district comes from our taxes. So our community does watch our staffing, and insurance really takes up about 75% of our annual budget. And that's the way it should be because we're a people organization. Next.
Just to be clear, staffing takes up 75% of our budget. I think you said insurance, right?
Staffing and insurance.
Right. So salary.
And benefits. Okay, the Lake Bluff Elementary enrollment history from 2014 plus. You'll notice from 554 to 591 this year. So we've seen the growth at the elementary school, and gradually that goes through our middle school. Next slide. Now, what we've done, this is the different part. I have put together scenarios about what would happen if we did cut staff, just so you could see the class size numbers and what happens with that. And you will see in the conclusion, what we're bringing you as a final recommendation is keeping our staffing exactly the same. So in the elementary scenario 1, we gave an example at 3rd grade. This year we have 5 sections. The numbers are going down in 5th grade. So if we cut 2 teachers at 5th grade, we could actually go down and have class sizes of 25.7, which I think is very high, and in the community that would be very high. But it's one scenario of something we could do if we needed to cut staff at the elementary school. If you look at the next slide.
Just ask, why going down by 2 teachers? Why not go down by 1 teacher?
And that's the one teacher is this slide.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just, we could come up with all different kinds of scenarios with it. In this particular slide, well, actually, we didn't do it here, Julie, so that's a good question. When you look at this particular slide, we have, at 1st grade, our numbers are actually going up. So when you look at the recommendations, and you may want to get out your little staffing slide or look at your computers, the actual recommendation in 1st grade is for us to add a teacher at 1st grade. If we kept it the same, even though the number of students from kindergarten going into 1st grade is increasing, our class sizes would be 22.5 at 1st grade. And that is, believe it or not, that's high for a 1st grade class in our district. We actually, in grade 3, if you look at what our recommendation is, we are going down students, and so we're recommending we go down a teacher in 3rd grade. So that's already a balance. And then in this particular one, we took the 2 teachers again and kept it at 25.7. Every single time, we could play around with a bunch of scenarios. The lowest we've gotten for a projected average class size is around 22 or 23 in the smaller K1-2, and our kindergarten 1st and 2nd are really the grade levels that we're teaching reading and the primary skills, and we're finding that the class ranges of knowledge are so diverse that keeping them small is really, really critical in those primary years. Questions so far?
Well, okay, I'm going to focus still on the 3rd grade. If we went down with 5, if my math is right, and no guarantee of that, then we have class size of about 15 to 16, which seems small.
If I can just clarify that one. So at the elementary school, what situation we have is we have either 5 sections at a grade level or 4 sections at a grade level. And so currently, we have 5 sections of 3rd grade. They'll be moving to 4th grade, where we will have 5 sections next year. What's moving into 3rd grade is 4 sections from 2nd. So when we reduced 1 teacher, it's only having 3 teachers at 3rd grade, because the original group moving in came from 4 sections. So reducing by 1 teacher reduces it to 3 sections. Likewise, at the 1st grade level there, that group is a large kindergarten class. We have 5 very full sections of kindergarten. So if we moved them to 4 sections of 1st grade, that's how those class sizes would be getting so much larger. So when Jean mentioned we want to add a teacher at 1st grade, all that means is we want to shift a teacher to 1st grade, and from 3rd grade we want to shift a teacher to, like 4th. So the number of staff would stay the same without any reduction of staff. The number of staff would stay the same. We would just be shifting. And our staff knows that every year there's always shifting because we have 5, 4, 5, 4. There's no regular pattern of how many grade levels have 5 sections versus 4. It's all based on enrollment. So we do have this large kindergarten class this year, and so that phenomenon is going to continue as far as our staff moving and shifting all the way through 5th grade, because they're going to most likely need 5 sections if we keep the class sizes the same. So does that help clarify a little bit?
And,
Okay.
and if you take a look at the actual recommendation, you can see we're shifting someone, so we have an added teacher in first grade, one less teacher in third grade, one more teacher in fourth grade, and one less teacher in fifth grade, for a total of 0 FTE increase. But it was important, and it shows up here too. It's important for you to know that, because we're going to be talking about cuts at the possible cuts at the middle school, we had to play around with some possible cuts at the elementary, and we found that there really was nothing that was outstanding that we could look at and say, yeah, we could afford to cut a teacher, keeping in mind that we've got the wide range of classrooms, we've got small class sizes valued by the community, and all the other different things that we do. So I put together a couple scenarios on that. Moving on to the middle, because this is really where I spent the majority of my time. If you take a look at the middle school enrollments, we've gone from 310, we're back at 303, we're going down next year, and then all those students that we just talked about at the elementary school are all gonna move through the middle school. So every year we talk to you about, we still need the staffing to make our schedule work and make our programs work, but after so many years, I really felt that it was important that we hire a professional to take a look at our schedule and see what else could we do. So if you take a look at the next slide, we're answering the questions. Why does our staffing generally remain the same at the middle school? The programming is the key piece. We have many, many, many constraints on our schedule. That was the middle school experts' comment. I can't believe how many constraints and different things you do as a small district. We have to have a minimum number of teachers to make everything work. So moving along to the next slide, I hired a national master scheduler. His name is Arlen Canaday. Writes books. In fact, he has an article I'll be sending you. He wanted to send you on scheduling that's coming out this month. And he walked me through, spent about 6 weeks coming up with 4 scenarios that if we had to cut, we could. The first scenario generally would be blocking world language and wellness, so the periods are longer. And what that would mean is the kids would have world language one day and wellness another, and they'd rotate. We could cut up to, not quite 2, but up to 2 teachers if we were going to do this. As educators, our concerns would be, first of all, and there's a PE bill on the House floor tomorrow morning, as a matter of fact, wellness is mandated in Illinois at middle school for every single day. And I think the state's going to get even more specific and not grant waivers on this. So in that case, it wouldn't even be possible. We also know research supports world language being taught every day to build on that prior knowledge and really get the expertise. And we know that research also supports wellness every day for higher academic achievement as well as better student behavior and overall health. So that was kind of one, it's like, well, that might not be such a good idea right now. Scenario 2.
Well, can I just clarify being so old? Wellness is PE, right?
Wellness is PE. We call it wellness here.
Okay, I know.
But yes, Mr.
And I
Berry,
think there are people watching who might also wonder, what is wellness?
wellness is PE.
'Cause I know
Wellness
so many
slash
people are
PE.
watching. Yeah.
Scenario 2 would be moving chorus and band out of the school day. In our area, chorus and band is usually within the school day in most schools. In many areas, in fact, both of the districts that I worked in prior to this, chorus and band were out of the school day, so they either practice in the morning or after school. We could cut anywhere from 2 to 4 teachers depending on exactly what we did with that. That would also include other fine arts classes though too. Here, big concerns. First of all, contractually with the teacher contract, this would result in huge problems with amounts of planned time for our teachers at the middle school. Huge. Our fine arts program is really exemplary. Taking it out of the school day and putting it before or after school would compete with our students' many other extracurricular activities. And from a personal standpoint, we are the only district that I know, and I've done a lot of work on it, research, that has 80% or more of our students are in band and chorus. You don't get that opportunity.
80%?
80% of all of our students are in band and chorus.
Band or chorus.
Or both.
Right, but it's an or there, because I would imagine the band participation is quite a bit lower than the chorus.
Not considerably, but it is lower.
80% meaning 80% of our students are in band,
Right.
chorus.
Or both.
Right, yeah.
Right.
That's what I would think. So band or chorus.
It truly is a great opportunity for our students that they're not going to have once they get to high school. So they can have the opportunity to choose which one they want to go into.
But to that point, what if just band was taken out of the day? Because that, again, I think is a relatively small group of people.
We, again, though, would be,
Not-
Nate, you want to get up here? Then you can help me answer questions on this. It's still a bigger number than you would think. And I think we would have a problem with band parents feeling like we're doing things for chorus and not for band. And again, I'm going to tell you, we have a lot of kids in both.
Yeah, I mean, is it smaller than the chorus group? Yes. It's not inconsequential, and it is still a place where students are going, which allows for our academic teachers to have common plan time. If you eliminate that course, those kids have to be dispersed somewhere else. And whether that be forcing them to take other fine arts classes, or, as you said, it's a contractual issue if we need to maintain that planning period for the academic teachers as well.
Which that one I don't even have up there.
What do kids do who are in neither? I mean, it's a small percentage.
It is a small percentage, but we have the SEAM program that kids are a part of, we have art, and we have drama, so that's where the other students are going.
I mean, again, if we took the band, if we just eliminated band as the less attended and did send them to another fine arts program, would that, how many positions would that free up? I mean, if we're talking about two
Right.
teachers,
I should
that's
also-
not
I should also be clear
Probably
that
none.
that fine
'Cause you have
arts,
to do both
Yeah.
to get the 2 to 4.
they're interwoven. The fine arts are on what's called an AB schedule. So if you're a student experiencing a 9th period fine arts class, you may have band on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday one week, and chorus on Tuesday, Thursday the next, and then it flip-flops. So they have to be aligned to one another because they're connected in that way. You may be a student who's in band only, so you're going to have band 3 days a week and art 2 days a week. One week, they flip-flop the other week. We just alternate the Fridays in order to keep the meeting time even. And I bring that up just because that is still the only period of the day or the only time in a student's schedule where it is blocked and they're connected over the course of the week, if that makes sense.
And Julie, I think the other thing that you mentioned, which I need to be very specific on, we would have to move chorus and band out of the day in order to reap any benefits from it. He was very particular because we're so small. He said it was interesting for him to work on it because we are so small and we have so many programs. Scenario 3, stay there just in case I have questions, Nate. Offer a straight 6th grade math, straight 7th grade math, straight 8th grade math, eliminate higher levels and opportunities for kids to take math at their own ability levels, possible cut of up to 2 teachers. We have a big concern on that one. We've spent a lot of time working with Northwestern on opportunities that we give our students to take math at whatever ability level they are. It's a community priority. It was mentioned in strategic planning. And with our lower student number, the needs still don't change. So it's more difficult to put it all together and schedule even that way. We have kids right now taking taxis. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, from the elementary to the middle school to take math at their own level. It's kind of cool. Scenario 4 is probably the biggest. Nate and I mention it every single year when we talk about it. It would be the ability to cut 4 to 6 teachers, and it's eliminating the middle school model. And really what it would be doing is eliminating everything at middle school that we know and love. So it would eliminate the ability for teachers to team and talk about students individually. The way we have it right now, it allows for more personalized teaching and learning. It provides for an advisory period that, honestly, we have so many things to go in the advisory period, we have to usually figure out what we can find time to do in there. Our class sizes here would be an average about 30 plus to get to that point. An increased need for sub-coverage for our IEP and other professional meetings held during the day. That's a big problem for us because we can't get subs on a normal day. There are many issues contractually. More preps for teachers. So preps are how many times they reteach the same class. So for instance, when I was a teacher, I taught accounting 1, and I taught that 3 different times in the day. My prep was the same because I had students and I was teaching them accounting 1 3 different times. And then I think I did keyboarding and a consumer ed, so I had 3 preps. When you do a model like this, you could legitimately have a teacher teaching 7th grade language arts, 6th grade language arts, and maybe, if they were certified, 8th grade history. And all those different preps really take away our ability to kind of align our curriculum. They allow us to not have the time that we need to team, talk about the personalized learning, and really talk about the whole child. Nate and I, when we were going through this, really talked about, we believe we would lose some of our middle school staff just because of the philosophy. They believe very strongly in the middle school model. I would tell you that our middle school is very child-centered, and the way we have it set up now, it really allows our teams to support the whole child. So this is, if we ever had to cut staff, this is probably where we would need to go. I did it in my last district before we left, and it really changes everything about your school. But if you can't afford it, then that's what you have to do.
Does this also require eliminating of fine arts stuff during the day, like the band and the chorus during the day, if you went to a middle school model?
It wouldn't eliminate it, but it would definitely change it in many different ways. It might shorten it. We would have to go back and rebargain with the teachers because they'd be teaching longer amounts of time. We'd have to work on certifications for teachers, because when you do this, for instance, I might need to find any teacher that's certified to teach science. Maybe the science teachers that we have are all in classes. So I have to look at everyone's certification, and maybe, maybe Jay's an auto teacher, all right? Maybe let's say Jay's an auto teacher, but he has a minor in science. I may be pulling Jay and saying, okay, you're gonna be teaching science for us now. And that's not really his area of expertise. So although in your case it would be, but not for most other people.
How about the I forget what you call it, the way our kids can take math at accelerated rates at their own rate as opposed to at 1 grade level of math? How would that be affected by a middle school model? Or would it be?
That I don't know, Mark. I don't know the answer to that one.
I just thought of that. I apologize for catching.
No, that one I don't know the answer to. So,
I mean, yes, when you have teachers teaching across multiple grade levels, you're limited by both classroom space where they have available place to teach and how many can teach at a given time. So when you start to look at teaching across multiple grade levels, that would be an issue perhaps, is how many math classes could be taught at one time, and the same is then true of your fine arts classes. If you've got a teacher teaching across grade level, then they are now teaching in a period of time which would traditionally been a planned period, so you've got to take those kids back from their fine arts class in order to deliver that instruction. So it would impact a drama class, it might impact a PE, it might impact chorus and band. It really does require you to take everything off from that common plan time that we currently have, because you need teachers teaching more periods in the day. So in other words, 6 out of the 9 periods are being taught. You're extending that. That's where the contractual piece comes in. You're going beyond 6 periods in a day.
next slide. Our recommended staffing plan is in your board packets and it looks exactly the same as any other year. We're recommending the exact same plan for middle school as we had at elementary. I would take note that it looks like we have a 0.8 psych at middle school, and that's because due to our increasing needs at the elementary school, our middle school, a couple of our middle school staff members now have to teach over at the elementary school. So their time has been reduced at the middle school, and we've sent services over to the elementary school because of need. So but our overall bottom line with FTE remains the same in both buildings. Yes. This is a really key slide, and as I've discussed with many of you, the reason we did this exercise is, and the reason I hired this middle school scheduler, is to find out what could we cut if we were needed to cut, what are the options, and then really what financial impact does that have if we do that. So Jay put this together, he worked with me on this, so you may have to answer questions on this, Jay. Reducing staff really has a small impact on the tax levy overall. So I'm going to walk through this. If we went through the whole scenario at the elementary school or the middle school or a combination, and we cut 2 teachers, that would give us an annual savings of $140,000. We're assuming an average teacher salary and benefit for teachers 7 years or less of experience, because you always would most likely release the younger teachers and less experienced. The tax bill impact for a median $600,000 home would be $41. That's what they would get. Again, if we had 4 teachers, it would be an annual savings of $280,000 for a tax bill impact on a $600,000 home of $81. Going all the way up to 10 teachers, if we cut 10 teachers, and mind you, our staff is less than 100 now, so that would be a large percentage. It would give us an annual savings of $700,000 and benefit a taxpayer of a $600,000 home about $203 a year. Next slide.
So wait, go back to that one, can you go back one? I was also looking at the numbers relative to our total budget, and so if you reduce staff by 10%, which is what a 10% cut is, 10 teacher cut is, you're saving on an operating budget of 16.4 million roughly, which is pretty close to what we are, right? You're saving 4.2%. So it's a pretty big hit in staff, not a whole lot of, not a lot of bang for your buck. 4.2% on a $16 million operating budget is the savings of a 10% cut in staff.
And greatly impacting programming from K-8.
It also seems to me that it's, especially if you're talking about a dramatic change like the middle school model, switching to a junior high model, you're not just you're not just cutting staff, you're changing culture, you're changing the community, you're changing the reason why people come to this town.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to really think carefully before we do consider things like that.
Absolutely. Here's our conclusions, and I want to make a couple comments on this at the end. The overall enrollment of both schools is holding relatively steady. There's bubbles that go through, some are lower and some are higher, but it's holding generally steady. Reducing staff will have a detrimental impact on our class size at the elementary school, and reducing staff at the middle school is not recommended as it will impact the quality of our overall programming. The savings to an average homeowner for reducing our staff by 2 teachers is relatively small for the impact on students. You don't need to change this yet. I think what this exercise has allowed me to do, and kind of where I would like to go with this in the future, since I walked in the door here on June 1st, or July 1st of 2012, and John became my friend, and he talked to me a lot about staffing, and he reminds me constantly that the majority of our community do not have kids in the community. Kids in the school. And the bottom line is that they need to understand when they're concerned and they just say, we need to cut staff, we need to cut staff. I think we need to be able to have something to refer them to, and now we're going to have this presentation, which will be posted on the website, and you can refer them at all times. I think the bigger piece for me, which was a learning experience, and I got from you guys, is that last slide that Jay did on the impact on what the average taxpayer would actually be saved doing this. Because if I were a taxpayer and felt strongly on the savings, and I saw ultimately we'd cut 2 or 4 teachers and it would only result in X amount on my tax bill, that to me would probably help me back off a little bit. However, I will share with you, this district has to continually be on top of staffing. We are small. We are accountable to the taxpayers. We are accountable to our students. And because of the studying and looking at what the strategic plan told us and what our culture is in the community and in our school district. For this year, we're recommending that we keep staffing exactly where it is right now for licensed staff. All right, we're going to be doing non-licensed staffing next month, but for licensed staff, we're recommending that we keep it where it is. And the usual staffing sheets, which it's been important to me, you see the same sheets every year. You see the enrollment, you see our recommendations. They're all in the board packet, exactly the way you're used to seeing them. And in a couple minutes, when we go to board approvals, we're gonna recommend that we keep staffing the same in both, that we put this presentation on our website for all to see, and talk about it with the community. I think they need to know we've done some of our homework on this now.
I have one other last nerd math point. If the average.
Listen, Jay, because you're gonna have to help me.
If the average $600,000 house pays probably around $11,000 a year in their tax bill, something like that, a $200 savings from a 10% cut in staff nets them less than 2% savings on their annual tax bill.
I hear that. I want to be careful with that reasoning, because, that, it does add up after, a certain point. You can, say that to death. But I do thank you for this close look at it, and I appreciate the comment that we need to stay on top of this, and at some point maybe challenge some of the assumptions about class size and things like that. So I agree with the conclusion. I appreciate the analysis, and I don't want to seem like we're too easily sharking off. Well, it's only $41. Every little bit helps, and we need to stay on top of it, so.
Well, it's also good if we get to a point where there's a potential tax freeze, we have some options to look at, and we can see what effects they may have one way or the other on our outcomes, so it's good to have the information.
One option that you and I discussed when we discussed this program, or this analysis, was world language, other languages, and whether we needed both world languages. I know at one point, many years ago, we talked about Mandarin, adding Mandarin. So one thing to consider, rather than just considering the band and chorus, 'cause I think those are very important to the community, is whether or not there's any room on either of those two languages, or...
I can get this one.
Yeah. I know we talked about this before, and I'm not suggesting we need to do it now, but I'm just throwing that out there as another option.
And the other thing I would add to that, Susan, that I thought about after I talked to you, I should have known because Nate talks about it every year, and I forgot about it, is that we still wouldn't have to have a place for the kids to go. So it wouldn't necessarily, we may cut, like if we cut French, which we're not going to, anybody that listens, but if we were to cut French, they still need to go to either Spanish, which we'd have to get another Spanish teacher, or somewhere else. So it wouldn't reduce staff. I'll tell you where we're gonna have the problem, is that if and when our French teacher ever decides she's gonna retire, trying to find another French teacher is virtually impossible. And so, that may be the time where we go down to 2 languages, or we start adding another language of some, or one language, Spanish, I'm sorry.
One other language.
Or we go to, we add another language like Mandarin or whatever. Districts are looking, in fact, it was interesting because I think Deerfield is adding Latin. So, and that you don't see very much at schools anymore. So we have to keep all these things in mind. I think looking through this and talking to the middle school scheduler, who would always be available to discuss this. I have all the paperwork. I have a file with all of his schedules. It will be available, but I think the community needs to know that we've looked into this because they have valid concerns. It's a hard thing to understand. It really is in scheduling, so.
All good?
Good, thanks.
Okay. So now we're gonna move on to item 8C, which is a calendar discussion.
This is
And
gonna be the
Jean's gonna take us through,
easiest.
I think, 4 different calendars.
If you pull the calendars that you're gonna be voting on, it's gonna be very easy, because there's only a couple changes. The amended school calendar this year, as you know, right now, we are ending school on June 10th. Because we have taken all 5 of our emergency days. I will go on record as saying if something happens that we need to take another emergency day, because it's only February 26th, we would apply for an Act of God Day and not have to make it up. You need to know that. We do have flexibility in June 10th, and what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be a full day of school, it doesn't have to be a half day of school, it has to be some part of school. So as an admin team, we're talking a little bit about that tomorrow. June 10th will be our last day of school. The Park District knows that's our last day of school. So everybody just needs to know that. So that's the amended one. Graduation is staying the same, very important, because a lot of parents have been concerned about that. The draft of the 1920 school year calendar aligns with the high school. What you need to know is our early release days are changing from, I think, the third Wednesday of the month. We're moving it to the first Wednesday of the month. But generally, it aligns with the high school and with 67. Not very different than what we normally do. The 2021 framework, the only thing that's different with the framework in 2021 is to align with the high school and 67, Friday, March 19th, they're taking off. My first question with that was, if it's Good Friday, we're gonna have a problem, because we're really not honoring any religious holidays. It is not Good Friday. They're just all taking the Friday off. So in talking with Nate, who sees a lot of the impact of when the high school's off and we're in school, a lot of our kids are not here, we have made the decision to try to align with the high school and have that day off also. We're starting generally in alignment with the high school and 67. It's a traditional calendar. There's not a whole lot of differences in it. Questions on that one? Finally, the 1920 board meeting calendar. We aligned with other meetings. The only thing I wanted to point out is in December, you have 2 regular board meetings. I figured we may need an extra one for the superintendent search if you need to get together or whatever. We can always cancel. That summarizes those 4.
Okay, transportation. Oh, I'm sorry, do you have a question, Julie?
No.
Okay. Transportation contract discussion, Jay and Jean will be
I'm
taking
gonna,
us through this.
I will start out, and then Jay's gonna give a really quick scenario answering the question I'm gonna pose for him. I was not a happy camper when we were not in school on that Friday of the week we were off 3 days before. We were told the buses were not running and Olson wasn't running their buses. All of the other Lake County school districts were told, their bus companies were also concerned, but they were told, we're gonna work through the night and we'll have the buses running. We were told, we're not running tomorrow, we're concerned. When I woke up on Friday morning and I designed this little spreadsheet for Lake County and everyone has to fill in, are we in school or not? We were the only school districts, Deerfield, us, and Lake Forest, that were not open because of transportation. Every other transportation company ran. I called a meeting. I sent a very professional letter to the transportation company. I called for a meeting. We had a meeting the following week. All 6 members of their leadership team came to the meeting. The superintendents from both the other districts and a couple other people. We expressed our dismay and concern and upset, and I think we have a better plan for in the future. They will tell us they'll get more help. They're going to try to run buses at night. This will not happen again. I am also going to be sharing with them that part of my concern is, I believe some of their concern was overtime, because all these other bus companies ran people in and out all night. And I would be okay with paying an extra surcharge for a night like we had that night, just to get the buses running so we have school the next day. Because it would be like a one-time only. The chances of that happening are slim to none. But I got a lot of feedback. You really need to look at your bus company. You need to think about having a different bus company. There are many reasons we cannot look at other bus companies. Jay's going to get into that. I would tell you that I'm semi-satisfied with their answer on having a plan for the future. And I think we're all gonna hold them accountable, especially Roundout's in there too. They were not part of our meetings, but she was also very unhappy they didn't run. So Jay, you wanna talk about why we really can't change transportation companies?
Sure, I think just market conditions today make it very difficult to change transportation companies. We'd have to go out to bid, and in the last 4 to 5 years, just with the record levels of employment, I've seen the statistics from other school districts who've gone out to bid, and most of them see very, very large increases and end up staying with their incumbent carriers. It's so hard to find bus drivers that no bus company wants to expand and go out and hire people and buy buses to get new business. So there are very few bidders. Generally, it's the incumbent bidder only. And then once you go out for bid, you kind of open yourself up to whatever people want to bid or charge you. So, we had a very good discussion with Olson. They were also concerned about their fuel mix, and we've agreed to start to a thinner mix earlier in the season to prevent things like fuel gelling from happening. And so we talked to Olson. They've proposed a 5% increase, which is still relatively, it's in line with market. We still pay less than a lot of other school districts for buses. And because we're with Olson, we do still have the ability to share some buses with Lake Forest High School. It's not to the same level that we did prior to Lake Forest High School's schedule change, but we do see about 10% savings from the small number of buses we're able to share, and we would lose that by going out to bid and going with another company. So just for those variety of reasons, I think it's still prudent to stay with Olson and to work with them on service.
So we're bringing tonight the renewal?
Yeah,
because it's up anyway?
Right, every year, the way it works is every year you basically have to mutually agree on a renewal contract. We can only extend it 1 year at a time, and unless another carrier asks us to bid, we can stay with our same carrier.
Lake Forest did reach out to Jay earlier in this year, or you reached out to them, I can't remember, to see if they were interested in bidding out, and they are not. So that's a key piece. Any questions at all on Olson, because you'll be voting on that coming up
We're
here?
recommending renewing it at the increase that you have in your packet at 5%.
So if other bus companies were running, do we have any contractual recourse with these guys? Is there, I don't know, liquidated damages for loss of school day or something?
At minimum, not pay for that day. I meant to talk to you about that. I was too mad to think about things like that.
Can we clarify? It's not worth a lot of money, but it would be at least something. I mean, the community was really disappointed by that. Everybody was disappointed by it. And so it would be nice to have some kind of recourse.
There are clauses in there, if a bus is more than X late and can't run, we don't have to pay for the bus. I could look at that.
Yeah.
I think we probably should, in all fairness.
I think in re-upping the contract, they should make good on whatever clauses we do have to use. I don't know. I mean, it's probably a matter of $500 or something. It's not huge, but.
It's the principle.
And it was, I think the other thing we talked about is they were sincerely concerned about safety. They didn't, with the fuel mix they had, buses could be started and be out on the roads and break down, and they didn't want to have that happen. And what they should have done was told that to the superintendents and let the superintendents make the decision instead of saying we're.
Or they should have been a transportation company and worked on their fuel mix in November.
Right, they should have figured it out and done it, had a different fuel mix in their buses, and
It's also their fault.
there's,
We're on it, and the other thing we're gonna do is meet the 4 districts they service, or 5, because Lake Forest has 2. We're gonna meet with them in the fall, in October, and go through what exactly the plan's gonna be on cold weather days next year. Because I'm not having that happen again.
Well, it doesn't get to 22 below very often around here.
I mean, it's an unusual circumstance. I'm sure in the contract it says something about acts of God, and if it's beyond their control and it's arguable, it'd be hard to approve one way or the other. So we can talk to them about it, but
I think,
I guess they're gonna run those routes at the end of the year, right, that they didn't run on Friday.
right, but
They're
they
gonna-
should
but they
still give
should-
us a day.
Definitely
No.
should charge us for that extra day.
Jay, you keep your relationship with them. I'd be happy to talk to them about that.
So can I clarify what actually happened? Are
Mm-hmm.
we saying that they didn't run that day, whereas other companies did, because they didn't send people to run the buses overnight and keep them running?
No,
Or you're saying that they were using different fuel than the other companies were, and therefore,
both.
I think it's a variety of things.
or
Also,
was
they
the
don't.
all the same and they just didn't want to do it?
I think that the difference in my book as a superintendent is all the other companies told the superintendents, we're really concerned. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get all the buses running, but here's what I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna have people working here all night, and we're gonna get these buses running for you. We heard at 7 o'clock, we're not running the buses.
And I always get lots of questions about this when this happens, and I always explain that you can't have buses out when it's 30 below zero, because if something happened, bus did break down or got stuck for some reason,
It's dangerous.
kids would be injured in the time it would take to get them all evacuated
That's
from
what
the
they were
bus.
worried about.
And that's
because
what they were worried about.
The fuel
But it
tank
was
is in the
warmer
back.
on Friday.
But it wasn't warmer until 10 o'clock in the morning that day.
If
That was
the
their story.
Fuel gelled on its way from the tank to the engine, like there's filters it goes through, and the bus could break down, and then it'd be out and the elements. I mean, that was their concern. I think also they don't have, some of the other bus companies or our larger districts or have more buses, so that if a percentage of them aren't running, they've got,
They could
pick
rustle
up
up
the
another one.
slack, whereas Olson is smaller and leaner and doesn't have the excess capacity, so that may have played into it as well. You know, there's lots of reasons, and we can speculate all day.
I mean,
but-
and not to micromanage what they do, but I know that people were very concerned because people are trying to go to work and plan, and it's really hard. So I got some questions about, like, why are other districts able to do it and we're not? So,
That was the first thing I emailed that Friday morning.
yeah.
Because I will tell you, the emails that I got were not real nice. So,
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
we have one more thing for Jay, which is quick.
The
It's quick.
intergovernmental agreement between the police and the fire departments and the Lake Bluff schools regarding security, correct?
Yep. As you know, we signed an intergovernmental agreement so that the fire and police department could access our cameras in the case of an emergency. We review this language every year as part of our crisis planning, and this contract is a 2-year contract that automatically renews every 2 years if neither party cancels it within, I think, 30 days or 90 days of the end of the contract. So we're just bringing it to you to remind you that this is in place and it will automatically renew if we do nothing, but that we have this intergovernmental agreement.
So our vote, we just brought it to you to point it out, but we're not going to ask you for approval.
And it's
It's
actually,
rolling over.
It's never been put into for. They've never had needed to access the cameras, but in the event that they do, the dispatch has the ability to.
Right. That's it.
Any other questions on that intergovernmental agreement? All right, action items. We are first going to look at the 2018-2019 amended school calendar. Board is being asked to vote this amendment it's extended to account for foul weather days. So may I have a motion to approve the amended 2018-2019 school calendar as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion is approved. The 2019-2020 school calendar, can I have a motion to approve the 2019-2020 school calendar as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. The 2020-2021 school calendar draft framework, may I have a motion to approve the 2021 school calendar draft framework as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second?
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. The 2019-2020 board meeting calendar, may I have a motion to approve the 2019-2020 board meeting calendar as presented by the administration? Are there any questions?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion's approved. The 2019-2020 licensed staffing plan, which is a net non-change in FTEs. Are there any questions or comments on that? May I have a motion to approve the 2019-2020 licensed staffing plan as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Charlotte.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, yes.
Motion's approved. Approval of the superintendent search firm contract. Basically, what that means is we're recommending that we hire School Exec Connect to help us identify our next superintendent. The total cost in the contract will be about $16,900 for fixed fees and roughly another $1,600 in expenses, totaling a little over $18,000. Carry us through the contract signing of the next superintendent for our district. Any questions or comments on that? So may I have a motion to approve the contract for School Exec Connect to serve as a superintendent search firm?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Charlotte.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, yes. Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Motion's approved. The approval of the Olson transportation contract, which we just discussed, basically involves a 5% increase, continuing our relationship with Olson. Any questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve the Olson transportation contract as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Charlotte.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, yes. Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes, motion is approved. This month's personnel report involves two people, non-licensed rehire David Petikowski in maintenance at the middle school, effective February 5th of 2019, and a licensed resignation, Sherry Meserve, a school psychologist at the elementary school, effective June 10th. Questions or comments on that? May I have a motion to approve the February 26, 2019 personnel report as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Leanne Charlotte.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, yes. Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Finally, the consent agenda. This month's consent agenda includes the treasurer's report, the impressed report, the bills report, the P-card report, open session meeting minutes for January 29, 2019, regular Board of Ed meeting, and the closed session meeting minutes for the January 29, 2019, regular Board of Ed meeting. Would anybody like any of that pulled from the consent agenda to discuss separately?
No.
Not hearing any. May I have a motion to approve the February 26, 2019 consent agenda as presented by the administration?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mark Berry.
Yes.
John Rosen.
Yes.
Leanne Charlotte.
Yes.
Julie Gottschall, yes. Susan Ryder.
Yes.
Motion's approved. FOIA reports, there was one having to do with school calendars. Details in your board book. Any final comments from the public? Not hearing any. May I have a motion to adjourn at 8:33?
So moved.
Second.
Second.